So welcome everyone to the Creating Your Marketing Plan for 2026 webinar. This is our fourth session of our Let's Grow Quinte series with Cheyanne. We know her, we love her. We've been all been a part of the webinars up till now. So yeah, let's just give it to Cheyanne.
Unmute myself. Thank you, Amy. We were just talking before how nice it is to see the continuity. Really allows me to start stacking concepts because, as we know, marketing is not a one and done process. It's a whole piece of our operations. So, last webinar, we talked about setting priorities or goals, and we're going to build off of that today. I'm also going to share a couple of resources with you through links at the end. If you haven't set your priorities, I have a process that allows us to pick 3 SMART goals based on our business development stage. So that's a nice way to set those priorities or those goals, or work with somebody at the Small Business Center, or there's lots of ways, but I want you to have a focus. And once we have that focus, now we're going to talk about how we make sure that planning turns into actions and results. There's a million things we can do with marketing, and it's never a lack of ideas for us business owners. We've usually heard so many different things we could do. It's how do we approach it in a way that makes it actionable and executionable so we get the ROI. That's what we're going to talk about today. Because as much as I love the big Mad Men vision of sitting in a boardroom and brainstorming and all the genius that comes out of that, that part's easy. Ideas are easy. The money is in the action. And that tends to be the place that is very challenging for us because, like Kim pointed out, most of us are wearing every single hat in our business. So we need to learn how to make marketing strategic, but also very practical. And we're going to talk about that today. So BDC reports that strategic planning increases the likelihood of business growth by 30 to 40%. It's also another stat that businesses with marketing plans are 6.7 times more likely to see success. This is how crucial the strategic planning stage is, but it's not the planning that does it, it's executing on the plans. And most small business owners, we're doing a lot of marketing work regularly. There's no lack of effort when it comes to being a small business owner. No one goes in this direction because it's the easy way. We're clearly signing up for a lot of work and a lot of hustle, but marketing still often feels very disorganized, very reactive, and quite often ineffective. This happens when our marketing plans start to break down. Most marketing plans stop at goals. We think, okay, I want to be more active on social media. I want to start an email marketing. I want to run ads. Maybe I need to improve my website. And that's usually about where we stop. And that describes what we want, but it doesn't show us the work we need to get done. How do we actually move these type of things forward and not just leave them as intentions? Marketing goals fail when they're not translated into structured work. To plan effectively, marketing goals need to become marketing projects. As a marketing consultant, this is what I do constantly. I do it for my clients, I do it for myself. I help my clients organize their own marketing goals into projects. This is where the rubber meets the road, and this is where we start to really see ROI. Everybody knows me at this point, as Amy pointed out, marketing consultant. I work with small micro businesses. I help them build their systems and their ability to run their marketing. I work with larger small businesses and I create strategic consultation packages for them. That's me. I do my thing. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to go through the 3 stages of marketing projects. This is a key reframe to help you look at all those things you want to do and translate them into an actual pathway you can take. The other piece we're going to talk about is how you time your marketing projects. We only have so much time in the year. We only have so much capacity. We want to optimize the way we're laying this out. And it's a really, really simple calculation that completely changes your relationship to your marketing. So rather than being reactive, we can be really intentional and really well paced. Quite often, I like to say entrepreneurs have a serious case of shiny object syndrome. We really, really like chasing things that are new and exciting, and this helps balance that out so that we don't get caught in that. So, a marketing project is a defined body of work. It has a clear purpose, a sequence of steps, and an outcome it supports. If there's anything you are considering doing with marketing this year, if it requires decisions, setup, and follow through, it is a marketing project. 99% of what we want to do with marketing is actually a project, and we want to approach it like that. Projects will allow you to clearly define what needs to be done and when it needs to be done, work on one priority at a time, and recognize when something is complete. One of the most frustrating realities of marketing is it's a long-term game. You really can't set up a piece of marketing and then anticipate to immediately see results. It just doesn't work that way. This is relationship building. It takes time. So when you look at it as a project, you know when that piece is done, and then you can wait and monitor and watch the feedback, and you can close that loop for yourself. When we approach marketing this way, it turns the planning from aspirational, where we have all of these really big ideas in our heads, but they never get implemented, into something that's very realistic. It's calibrated to the time and capacity we have, and it's divided out into stages, which is what we're going to talk about next. So marketing projects do not happen all at once. This is a hiccup I see quite often. I had someone approach me before Christmas. She reached out and said she wanted to run a campaign before the new year hit. She had some very specific reasons for that that made complete logical sense. And I actually had to tell her, I cannot ethically take this on because I know as a marketer, we can't sit and do this in the span of 30 days. There's just not enough time, and it will be a waste of your money. So instead, I told her, if you do want to try and capture any conversions, here's what I would do for a DIY. And the reason I had to say no is because marketing projects progress through stages, whether we plan them or not. These are the stages that we end up going through. Quite often we rush them and condense them, and we don't give them proper due. But this is the process of creating a piece of your marketing. Problems happen when the stages are ignored or compressed. We're going to talk about some of the common pieces, and you'll probably recognize some of your own struggles with marketing in them as we talk about it. So when you look at all of the things that you want to do this year for your marketing, I want you to recognize there's three distinct stages. Develop is always the first stage. This is the brainstorming. Amy and I were talking about it. This is quite very often, this is where a lot of us are right now, is strategic development. We're sinking in, we're looking at big picture, we're brainstorming. And then we move into promotion. Some marketing pieces need attention brought to them, some don't. And then we look into launching and running. This is the actual application of it. So if you decide you want to do social media, before you get to launching or running your social media, you're going to need to go through develop, and you're going to need to do some promotion. What happens quite often is we try to jump right to launch or run, and we try to skip over the other pieces. And as a marketing consultant, the reason marketing that someone like me does is stronger at this point, having been at this 8 years, it's a bit of my built up knowledge and insight. But a huge chunk of it is just that I approach marketing through these steps. That's what gives me a much higher ROI and impact when I do a campaign or I launch a social media strategy for myself or a client. It's because I give myself the privilege of breaking it into a project. And that is what I want everyone else to be doing with their marketing. We're going to go through each of the stages. I'm going to show you what they look like. And I'm also going to go through some examples because I really want this to be tangible for us. So in the develop stage, this is where you're really deciding, designing, and preparing the marketing before it's visible. Quite often when I start working with people and we talk about their marketing, they're thinking what they need to do today that needs to go out to their audience. But really, your marketing starts way before your audience sees any of it. And this is in the development stage. This includes brainstorming, strategies, assets, and setup. One of the things I like to help people reframe is if you have any amount of funding to support you with your marketing, where you can bring in outside help or you can make some purchases, we usually want to put it into the run or launch part, invest it in the development part, because this is the foundation. if you can bring in support and guidance in the brainstorming and the strategies, if you can have a photographer come in and build you a little library of brand photos or product shots, that becomes an asset. This is the smartest place to invest if you have a limited budget because it all has an increased ROI downstream. Whereas if we're only investing our money in having someone else actually doing the social media publishing for us and nothing has been developed, it's very easy to see no impact from that money because it hasn't had a strong development. So if we rush through this stage, which happens quite often, this is where you're going to see poor results because the strategy isn't there. Whether we're talking website, ads, social media, it doesn't matter. Everything should have a solid strategy behind it. It also tends to lead to inconsistent execution. One of the key parts of the development stage is really recognizing what's the capacity. If it's just you, do you have social media skills? If you have a team, how many hours do they have to put into that? And you design your marketing based on the actual capacity. And that allows the actual execution where if we decide we're going to take on something that we heard from somebody else or sounded really cool, but it doesn't match our actual capacity, we won't end up executing because we might go full out at it for a month and then we're so tapped out and we have other priorities that it becomes inconsistent instead. It can also lead to stalled projects where, what are we in January? But it's like the New Year's resolution for health and fitness. We go really, really hard into it the first couple of months. And then because the strategy just wasn't put into place properly and the systems weren't built, those projects just end up stalled because we just cannot keep executing them. So these issues show up later as execution problems. Quite often when I work with people and they'll say, oh, I have a million marketing ideas. I know what to do. I just can't execute. It's not the execution that's the issue. It's that enough time has not been sunk into development. So proper development really helps to reduce friction during execution. It is like a gift you give your future self or your future staff member, whoever's handling the marketing. When you properly develop and plan and strategize, execution runs so much smoother. It also really helps to limit ongoing decision making. One of our biggest challenges as small businesses and solopreneurs is we are inundated with micro decisions constantly, and that is a cognitive load. We can reduce that with our marketing by preloading the decisions in the development stage. Once you develop your plan and your strategy, you don't have to make 90% of the decisions anymore. They've already been done. I have a group of women business owners that I meet with regularly, and we just love the simplicity of being able to follow our previous plans. We're always thanking our past selves because our brains are overloaded already as it is. And of course, it's going to lead to inconsistent results, or rather, it will increase the consistency of our results and it increases our capacity to stay consistent with it, which with marketing, consistency and clarity are key. So this is the sit down, get a strategy, really understand how this needs to look for your business and for you and for your business goals to work properly. And some of that, it's hard to really get the insights you need unless you do have a lot of experience or a professional background, which is why I say tap into the resources, tap into the Small Business Center, invest any money that you do have into bringing support at this level. The next stage is promotion. When we talk promotion in terms of a marketing project, it's directing attention to the marketing project. This is not always required. There are some forms of marketing project we'll do that we don't need to promote, but there's a lot that we actually really do. So things like events, workshops, an email list needs to be promoted, a social media profile needs to be promoted. So promotion is required when attention must be intentionally driven to the destination. So we can use promotion to drive awareness, traffic, signups. We essentially have to market our own marketing. When we rush or we do not market our own marketing, we don't promote it, this is where we're going to hit low visibility, weak participation, underperformance at launch. I know almost every single business owner has had to deal with this. And quite often, it's not necessarily that whatever they were trying to invite people into, that their email list doesn't work, that their social media doesn't work because there's low visibility and participation. It's that they underpromoted it. They didn't spend enough time actually drawing attention to it. So these issues show up later as lack of interest or poor results. Quite often, I've seen this happen where email list tends to happen a lot because we all know in the back of our heads, we've heard that email lists are really important. So we're like, well, I launched one, but no one really signed up, or I didn't really get nobody really seemed interested. And it wasn't that there was actually a lack of interest, it's that there wasn't enough time spent promoting it. Proper promotion allows us to build awareness ahead of launch. It creates momentum before we start executing and running and launching something, and it ensures people are present when it goes live. This protects the success of the project once it's running. I'm going to go through a couple of examples so you can see with common marketing projects we might be looking at this year when we need to promote. Not all of them. Advertising, for example, we don't need to promote. Launching and running. This is the final stage, and it's what we usually associate with marketing. We just think it's putting it out there, but we want to make sure we have a good amount of time for development and a good amount of time for promotion before we get to this point. So when we are in the launch or run stage, this is when we put the marketing live and people can actively engage with it. So it's public, it's active, people can attend, interact, respond, or buy. Our social media channels are open, our email list is open, our event is running, whatever it is, this is during the active open stage. This can be time-bound if it's an event, or it can be evergreen if it's something we're going to keep consistently, like social media and email. So a rushed launch or inconsistent running leads to unreliable results, unclear performance data, and premature abandonment. Our data is we're going to have a workshop on that, I think in a couple of months. We're going to be talking about as small business and solopreneurs, our data is our advantage. I just did a podcast episode on this. We have a gold mine of data if we are paying attention. One of the reasons we don't end up with the data we need is that we rush through launches or we keep them really, really short. And then we're not even giving our audience a chance to send signals to us because we abandoned it prematurely because we were hoping for something really quick that we'd see really quick results out of. And these issues show up later as this just didn't work. I hear this quite often where I'll talk to people about their marketing and I'll mention something like social media and they'll say, well, I tried that. It just didn't work. I'm like, I have worked with a lot of business owners and I know social media does work. But because they've gone through this experience, for them, when they rushed through it and they tried social for a month or two and they didn't see any results, they didn't have any development behind it, to them, it genuinely does not work. When you allow a project adequate time to run, you create usable data. With marketing, it's never something that, again, like Mad Men, where this genius person comes in and tells you exactly how to reach your market and exactly what to say, and it works perfectly. That's not marketing. Marketing is taking your best guess in development, launching it, and then listening to the data and refining it based on the data. It's actually a lot easier than it seems. It's not based on random strokes of genius insight. It's having an ongoing relationship with your market and then watching the information that comes back and feeding that back into your strategy. It makes results easier to evaluate. When you allow your projects to run, you get time to see, are people engaging? Are we getting reach? Are we getting opens? If you condense that and you don't give it adequate amount of time, you'll never actually know which campaigns will work, which advertising channels will work. You need to give it time because execution really requires time, not just activity. Marketing is essentially building a relationship, building, deepening, and nurturing a relationship with your community, your industry, whoever it is you want to serve. And that's not something you do instantaneously. It takes time. What I find most often of those three stages, develop, promote, and run or launch, Development is often the one that's skipped or rushed. I know as small business owners, the idea of spending any amount of time to sit and brainstorm rather than execute can go naturally against our energy. I really see we're very much like tradespeople. I come from a trade background myself in classical French cuisine. We're action takers. Like, we don't want to sit on our butts and sit on our hands. We want to move into action. This is quite often why we tend to leapfrog a little bit over the slower brainstorming strategic place. But what happens is that when we move straight into promotion and execution, we just don't have sufficient setup. We're setting ourselves up to fail. And then this is quite often where we get overwhelmed, or we end up in January or July saying, well, I had all these goals for January and I haven't really done any of them. It's not, or I've tried and it didn't work. It's not because those aren't viable, and it's not because you don't have the capacity to run marketing for your business. It's often because we have not staged our marketing projects. We haven't brought them from priorities to projects. So I'm going to give you some examples so that you can see what this looks like for different types of businesses, depending on what kind of marketing they might be focusing on this year. Social media, we all know it, love it or hate it. It is a thing. And it is one of our easiest, most accessible communication and discoverability channels. If you're not on it, I will tell you as a marketing consultant now, this should be a priority for you this year. It is a very common one, and it's also very common to struggle with having it make sense for any amount of time investment. I know that our time and our energy has to be very carefully allocated. So if social media is not working, it's one of the ones we kind of back away from very easily. My mom is a brick and mortar owner. I am a marketing consultant. She will not do her social media because she has this block against it. Like, that's such a waste. Why would I bother? Mother-daughter relationships, right? You have to keep business out of it. So if this business, it's a cafe, this is one of my made-up brands, it's called the Bean There Cafe. They've decided 2026 is the year they're going to get good at their social. Foot traffic is slowing down. Their regulars aren't coming as much. This is a common condition right now. So they're like, okay, we have to bring people in some other way. So the first stage would be development. The things they would do before they even look at social media, before they look at posts or Canva or videos, anything like that, they're going to decide how social media supports the business. All marketing is meant to support your business goals. I've talked a lot about that in the previous workshops. I know they're up, available to view. We talked about our business development stage, and we have specific goals we need to achieve depending on where we are. Social media, you do not post for the sake of posting. You decide what is the goal and how does it need to support the business. And then you define the audience and the content approach. Who are you trying to reach? Content approach will be based on the capacity. If you do not have someone that has really cool videography skills and loves editing videos, you're not going to lean into a videography approach for your content unless you have the budget to do that. Doesn't mean you need to step out of social media. I'll tell you now, there's a bunch of ways we can use social media without needing to hit all the right check marks for the influencers and what we think of as social media content. Lots of ways. The next thing is then they would start to look at setting up their profiles, their visuals, and their basic templates. This is before they post. You set up the assets. You get it done in a foundational way. So all of that is taken care of. So you're not scrambling in a month or two when you're actively posting and realize, oh, I have no profile picture, or, oh, my profile's not set up. So when they go through this development stage, they're going to clarify the purpose, the audience, and the setup so social media can be used consistently. Now they know what it's for. They know the parameters of how they're going to work with it. This makes execution so much easier. For social media, you will actually promote and launch in parallel. So you will promote, you want to encourage follows. Maybe they have a QR code set up at the counter when people are purchasing. Staff are trained to mention, hey, follow us on social media. We're on Instagram now. So you're going to directly encourage people, existing contacts, to go and follow and like and share. And then you're going to launch and run in parallel. You're going to be following the plan you decided that aligns with your internal capacity. You're going to post consistently, and you're going to refine based on use and feedback. You're going to have in your calendar an actual day that either you or a staff member is doing your social media content. It's not going to be left up to something random and impulsive, which is when we tend to fall off of the track and we lose any of the results we're hoping for with that project. Another example is ads. I had a recent conversation with a local business owner who spent $40,000 on ads this year and saw zero ROI. And it's exactly because there wasn't a development stage, there was just a running and execution stage. Ads are one of my soapboxes I get up on because quite often we don't really understand how they're supposed to work. We're going to talk about that a little bit. So if a business is deciding to use advertisement in 2026, their first stage is develop. So first, before we even have a conversation with the radio, with whoever is trying to sell us advertisement, we're going to have a development brainstorm meeting with ourselves or a consultant or someone else who's a business owner, someone who we can work with, who we can trust that they're not just trying to sell us something. We're going to we're going to clarify our offer and our target audience. You do not do ads for the sake of ads. There is a specific goal. It could be you're at the place where you're just looking to bring people on your social media and grow your audience. That is an offer, social media content. It could be a sales campaign where you're intentionally looking to generate sales. I'm running one right now for my gym client, new year, new you, that whole thing. But you want to know exactly which offer you are going to put into that advertisement. And then you need to identify your target audience. And then we need to define your message and your positioning. And then we can create campaign assets. That's either the script for the radio ad or the graphics for a digital ad or the Google ad, the copy of it. Those are your campaign assets, but they're all based on message and positioning. You don't just randomly come up with them. They're based on this developmental work. The other piece is you then want to make sure your website or landing page, wherever that ad is sending people, that it's ready to receive traffic and that continues the conversation the ad is starting with them. So this development stage makes sure the ad campaign is clear, targeted, and ready to perform before it goes live. You can literally waste $40,000 in advertisements when you skip this. Because with advertisements, there's no promotion stage. What you're really doing is you're purchasing promotion. So what you actually purchase with ads is that they have their ability to get you in front of the ears and the eyes of people in your market. So you don't need to do the promotion. You're actually paying for that. But you're not paying for the development. You're not paying for the positioning. You're not paying for the connection to your business goals. Usually people who sell advertisement can do a bit of that and they will try as much to help you with that, but that's really development needs to be done internally to get results out of your ads. We move right into launch or run. And when we're launching or running ads, we want to monitor the performance, make adjustments, and gather our data. Another example, this is one of my favorite ones. I talk a lot about holiday marketing. Especially in the summer, I work with clients to create holiday marketing campaigns. That's the timeline. We're going to talk about that in a second. Seasonal campaigns are brilliant, even in the small scale way where we are just micro businesses, solopreneurs, or small businesses. We can do a lot with a seasonal campaign. I really, really encourage everybody to try them. When we're looking at potentially bringing this in this year, again, 3 stages: define or develop, promote, and launch or run. In the develop stage, we're going to choose that offer again. Do we need to repackage something? This is often depending on the season you're putting the campaign for. Christmas, there's a specific way you package things up to be fit for Christmas purchasing. Summertime is another very specific seasonal time. That's all done in the development stage. That's pricing, capacity, timing. You're really evaluating all of that. And again, messaging and assets. This is the core of marketing. Marketing gets 80% done in the development stage. The rest is really the 20% that carries it the rest of the way. So if you're going to run a seasonal campaign, you need to start this well before the season starts. For holiday campaigns, I work with people in July and August so that it's ready to go before we hit the fall. Fall is too busy for most small business owners, and it's ready to go as soon as we start moving into the holiday season. You actually want to promote a campaign. So you want to announce that you're going to have this special holiday gift offer in advance. You want to build awareness before people are ready to buy. You want to be top of mind. You want to be the option that people have already considered before they move into a peak sales cycle, which we're going to talk about with timing. You want to remind people as the season approaches. So even though you're not making it available yet, I have a client who does tea advent calendars. Really, really love them. I get one myself. My daughter got one this year. And before advent calendar season happens, she's already promoting her advent calendar. People know that it's coming up. They know to watch the email list to buy it. And that allows her to sell out every year because she's reminding them and creating mind share with the promotion before she's launching and running. This creates readiness and interest before execution. Marketing is not, especially for us small businesses, we're not trying to grab people and trick them immediately into purchasing with us with really high urgency or high pressure tactics, which means we want to use a warming up and a nurturing approach rather than that like high competitive, I want to grab you immediately and get you to immediately opt in. Our advantage is in the relationships that we are able to build. And so we want to give ourselves time to warm up our audience before we put something new in front of them. And then we move into launch run. So promotion goes live during the season. Marketing focuses on delivery and sales, and execution is much simpler because the setup is done. You have your assets, you know what you're selling, you've got inventory for people to grab. It's launched and run, and most of your work is done at this point, other than just collecting the sales that comes in. This is where we get the results and the ROI are captured. So different types of marketing projects. They'll have slight nuances in there with promotion, which is it's important to be mindful of. But in general, promotion is usually an element of it. But seeing how, regardless of which kind of marketing you're looking at prioritizing this year, which again, I'm going to give you my priority planner that you can use if you don't have your priorities yet, they all go through these stages. You want to give yourself the time to properly work through these stages. And AI can be a huge help with a lot of this, especially the development. If you're not in a place to be able to bring in outside help, you can lean into ChatGPT, tell it to act as a marketing expert and strategist, and that will act as a good prompt. So now let's talk about how do we time our projects. I love my small businesses and my micro businesses. I am a mom of three myself. I am managing all of the things. I get that one of the most important parts of marketing is that it's realistic for us and not overwhelming. I would love to swing for the fences and have all of my clients do like all these incredible, huge marketing projects. And it would be so incredible to see, but it's not realistic. What I much prefer is for them to be able to actually execute and see results because that feeds back into the business and brings them profit and revenue. So to make it realistic, we want to consider the timing. There are only 12 months in 2026, and you blink and they're gone. If we capture them and use them intentionally, our marketing can be in a much more significant place at the end of 2026 than it is now. And that's what I want us to do. Marketing work, when we look at how and when and what we're going to do with our marketing, we want to align it with two main things: how and when our customers are buying, our sales cycles, which I'm going to talk about in a second, and what our business capacity can support. If we try to schedule a huge marketing project when we're really, really busy in retail in Q4 towards the holiday season, and we're really busy, like just keeping customers going through the cash, not a good time to be developing marketing. Same if you have a slow period and it's just the market is not huge into demand right then, not the best time to launch or run something initially. There's a lot we can do with marketing eventually, but you really want to capture those peak sales cycles. So when we assign our projects to the quarters, you want to look at two factors in each quarter. Sales cycles. Anyone who's been in business any length of time, you've already picked up that during certain months of the year, like people are coming to you left, right, and center. You are so busy, you cannot keep the door closed. You cannot stay at a Zoom. No matter what you're doing, there is so much happening. And other times of the year, it is completely dead. You already have a sense of that. If you're so new that you're not sure, you can do a lot of research. You can ask ChatGPT to give you, based on industry standards, market standards, what are the sales cycles? And then the other point is your internal capacity. Looking at your personal life, your work life. If, like Kim mentioned, you're wearing all of the hats, you're also running the workshops, you're manning the till. If you're doing all that, you want to be cognitive of when does that claim the majority of your time and energy. And that is not the time to be also expecting yourself to sink in and develop a sales campaign or a website. One of the things I love about the clients I work with, quite a few of them, we've been working together for quite a few years. And when they have a natural slow period in their business, they reach out and we do a project development for them in one of their marketing projects. We work together to develop it, and then they go back into delivery. So understanding, just like with anything in your business, you really want to follow a rhythm with your marketing and not putting the expectation on yourself or a team owner or a team member to constantly be delivering marketing at a high level if they have other obligations. It's just it's not practical and it's not realistic, and it'll lead to projects that get dropped because you just cannot execute them. So our sales cycles, what we really want to be looking for is when is demand the highest and when are customers most likely to buy. If you do not feel like you have fully captured everything you can capture during those times, that is a great time to anticipate launching or running something for your marketing. You will get in front of people when demand is highest. Sales campaigns are an easy fit, but even something like if you're launching or running your social media or a website, this is when people are paying the most attention to your industry, to your market. The attention is naturally going there. So it's a good place to anchor when you want to launch or run something. Also look at your internal capacity, your delivery workload, your team availability, your operational constraints. I myself am a mom, so I know in the summertime, not only do my sales cycle drop because most of us business owners, we're either busy because it's our busy season, or we're also in summer mode. We're not doing as much in developing our business. And me, my kids are home, so my focus is there. So I do not have a ton happening with my marketing during those seasons intentionally. What we want to do is work backwards from when you want to launch or run your marketing activity. So if you think of your priorities this year and you look at your quarters, is there a specific one where demand is highest? That might be the smartest time to run a campaign, to anchor in that you are going to have this launch or run for this sales cycle. And then you want to work backwards. So promotion happens before you run or launch. And then development, you work backwards, and that's happening even before anything else. This is why when I do holiday campaigns with group programs or individually, we do it in July and August, because that gives us July and August to develop it and to start creating the assets. And then by the time September, October hits, we're ready to schedule it and have it run in November, December. That's how much lead time you want to give yourself so that you do not rush through those stages. I'm going to give a generalized timeline because I know it's important to anchor in, but keep in mind, there's variables here. If you're DIYing, if you're a deep researcher, I know quite a few of us business owners are learners by nature, so we can kind of like end up down rabbit holes. Development in general, I'd say between 2 to 6 weeks. Keeping in mind, we have a million other things happening, but scheduling time, knowing that Q2, the first month of Q2, I am going to be spending an hour or two a week developing this marketing project, brainstorming, creating my strategy, creating my outline, taking into account my capacity, what we are actually able to achieve. Then you're going to move into promotion. This is about 2-4 weeks. Depends on your audience, how warm they are, but getting the word out there, getting people excited for it, getting people anticipating it, and then launching or running. This is the longest one, which is beautiful because it's passive. Once you launch or run it, it's just going on its own, and you're just going to look and get the data out of it, but you don't have to actively do it anymore. So launch and run actually works really, really well for your busy seasons because you actually then get to retract Now you get to move into operations. You get to move into delivery. Your marketing is now doing the job for you and capturing that demand during the peak time. Development works really well if you have slow periods. This time of year is actually really, really keen one for development because we're all in brainstorming and setting intentions. So planning it out and looking at your year in terms of quarters and marketing projects. For most of us, if you are a small business or a micro business, keep your marketing projects or priorities to no more than three significant ones. What you will find is within each of those projects are mini projects, they're micro projects. So it will always expand. There's no such thing as like, oh, I'm going to do my website. And that's not going to, automatically entail, oh, I also need my copy and I also need my brand and I also need, there's always things that expand out of there. So don't worry that you won't have enough to do with marketing. So what I suggest is look at your 4 quarters. Look at the quarter that like you just do not have any capacity for marketing. Give that one to the rest of yourself of all the other things you're going to have to do. And the other ones, look at how you can divide out for the month and the quarter, 1 month for develop, 1 month for promote, and launch or run can carry over. So really breaking it apart like that helps you stay focused. The other piece that I like to tell people is when you're putting on your CMO hat and you're doing your marketing or you have a team member doing your marketing, you should have 3 marketing meetings in your schedule. And this is where this work has to happen. It needs to get into your schedule. You need to have a weekly marketing meeting where you're monitoring, you're watching what's happening, anything that's in the launch run stage, you're just keeping your eye on it on the touch point. You also need a monthly marketing meeting where you're doing your project work, you're doing your really deep dive. Some people like to do a whole day for it. Some people would rather divide that out for weeks, but you want at least 4 to 6 hours of marketing project work a month to be able to significantly move anything forward. And once a year, you should really be doing an annual marketing plan that helps you look at the full year and really get your priorities and really get the goals that you're going to move forward with. So, in general, that's how I would like you to put marketing into your calendars. When I run programs, I tell people, get your phone out right now, and I want you to schedule that in. And they're like, oh no, Cheyanne's going to make me stick with this. It's the only way we actually execute our marketing. So, looking at your 2026 marketing intentions, I want you to set some specific marketing goals and priorities. Our last workshop, we went through that. I'm going to drop a link here in a second that will bring you to my priority planner. If you haven't, or work with somebody, aim for 3. Those 3 will always explode into 9 or so because there's always a lot of interconnections. And then second, I want you to break those priorities into projects to really look at, okay, in the development stage, when am I going to do that? What kind of things can I already see I need to get a handle on in that stage? Promotion. Does this project require promotion? I'm going to earmark that into this month. And then running and launching. When am I going to run and launch this to align with demand as well as my capacity? And then 3, schedule those marketing projects into your quarters. If you don't have a big overview, get it into your calendar, get it written down and scheduled out so that you now have a sense of you or your team or whoever's doing it, when they're doing which project and which part of the project they're doing at that time. That's how we actually change our plans, our annual marketing plans, into success and into business growth. So, like I said, I have a Bay of Quinte consumer market report. This gives us a really good deep dive into who's purchasing and the purchasing behaviors in our market right now, as well as marketing that's responsive to the economic context we're in. I also have a marketing priority planner. I'm going to drop a link that will bring you to both of those. I'm also going to share my email in case anyone wants to have a chat with me. I offer 30-minute conversations. No worries. I'm not going to pitch you anything, I promise. But sometimes just having someone to bounce off of can be really helpful. I'm also available for consultation and work if anyone's looking for that. So there is my spiel. I'm going to drop those into the chat. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Raise your hand, speak up, put it in the chat. Either way. Move my spotlight. We're usually pretty quiet. Perfect. Okay.
Okay, doesn't look like there's any questions. So if anyone thinks of one later on and wants to connect with Cheyenne, I will be sending out um, like the recording of today's webinar as well as her contact information and the link to the next session. I think it's February. Do you know it off the top of your head, Cheyenne? February, I want to say 9th. Let's see. The next one is scheduled for February 10th, so I was close. So yeah, February 10th is the next one. If anyone wants to sign up for that, please do so. And yeah, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you, Cheyenne, for another amazing webinar.
Very
Thanks.
welcome.